Hey, I'm sorry. This is Harry Lipsea here, and I'm sorry. Last week we had an interview with Tiffany, who's known for her mall circuit performances, and I said that we were going to get back to the music. Well, we have a surprise, an amazing surprise, another interview with another '80s legend. This time it's an actor, and even more importantly, he's coming to town. A Hollywood actor coming to Mayville. He is I don't even know. Just such a great actor, known for a bunch of films. Can't wait to talk to him. C. Thomas Howell, known as Tommy Howell, coming on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, Harry. Thanks for having me.
So you have a big event coming up here at the Delchar in Mayville on March 27th. We're going to have an evening with C. Thomas Howell and a screening of The Outsiders. Is this the first time you've done something like this?
No, my wife and I developed a foundation called the Stay Gold Foundation, which gives us an opportunity to travel and connect with students at schools and people across America, using the Outsiders film as a platform to really stress the importance of literacy today during a time when a lot of our younger people are struggling with it. There's so much focus placed on devices and video games and computers and whatnot. A lot of kids really aren't picking up a book or a pen and understanding the importance of communication and reading. And so many of our kids today, when you ask them, what are you interested in? What do you want to be? Do you want to be an artist? When I go around these classrooms and speak to seventh and eighth graders, very few of them raise their hand to that question. And when you ask them, what do they want to be? Most of them will say, oh, I want to be an influencer. Well, first of all, they don't even know what that means, because what is it that you're going to provide to the people that will give you influence over them? Is it your beautiful face, or is it a book like The Outsiders that S.E. Hinton literally wrote when she was 15 and 16 years old? So it's time for me to be able to give back. We come and we screen the film. We do a Q&A. We have a meet and greet. We have some laughs, take some pictures with people, and sign their old tattered books and Teen Beat magazines or whatever it is that they've hauled out of the old dusty attic for us. And it's a real good time to be able to connect with people. And the exchange seems to be very positive, and we're having a good time with it right now.
And again, we are talking with C. Thomas Howell, who's going to be in Mayville at the Delchar Theater, March 27th. And the event, more information is available on delcharmovies.com. And the schedule of events, it starts at 5:30 with a wave of the VIP, and then doors open 6:30 p.m. and 7 p.m. is the screening, and 8:45 is the discussion and the Q&A. I have to ask, why this movie as far as the movie that you want to do this to? Obviously, it's one that's made its mark, but what stands out to you in the body of work that you've done that Outsiders is the movie you do something like this for?
Well, really, the literary platform is so prominent. It's required reading in about 75% of the schools across America. And I'd say another 70 to 75% of those schools screen the film. So I have to say, we get all kinds of people that come through, not just younger people, but mothers and grandmothers. And Harry, I bet I've seen over 1 million Stay Gold tattoos in my day. And the stories that I've been told about people sitting on their loved one's bedside as they were dealing with terminal illness and reading the book to them, or sharing the movie with their children on a holiday, or revisiting either both the book and the film when their kids are required to read it in school, brings a lot of joy to a lot of hearts. And there's a character for everybody in the Outsiders. Kids still relate to both sides of the tracks, the haves and the have-nots, and struggling to fit in with the cool crowd. And I think The Outsiders gives everybody an opportunity to connect and feel loved and inspired. It's one of the things I like to discuss is the fact that especially when you're 13, 14, 15 years old. That's a really difficult time. And that was one of the hardest times for me as well. And trying to figure out who we are, and we worry about pleasing a lot of other people, and whether or not we're going to be accepted or appreciated. And thank God Essie Hinton didn't worry about that when she was 15 and 16, starting to write a book about a group of thugs from the wrong side of the tracks. I'm sure there were many people that came up to her and said, "What are you doing? You should stick to what you know." And if she would have listened to them, and thank God she didn't, but if she would have listened to them, we wouldn't have had the Outsiders. And it's an inspirational piece, and it's a beautiful platform that really allows us to have this exchange that we're talking about. And of course, we've screened Red Dawn, we've screened The Hitcher, and Gettysburg, and there are other projects that we like to share with people. But for the most part, to be able to raise money, supply reading materials, supply scholastic materials to schools, to teachers, and eventually looking for national support for sponsorship, to be able to send kids to school through scholarships. That's the eventual goal. But we just started doing this a few months back, and it seems to be effective, and we're getting a great response. So, I mean, I'm not going to spend my life screening The Outsiders by any means, but when we can travel around and get up to places like the Dakotas or wherever. I live down in Texas for now, and it's incredible how far and wide this simple film has traveled and reached so many people, and it's a lot of fun.
I have to ask, how familiar with the book were you before you auditioned for this role?
I was 14 when I started auditioning for the film, and I was introduced to the book through that process. I had not read it in school, and I had not been exposed to it. And when I read it, I absolutely fell. I read it in one seating, so I sat down and started to flip some pages, thinking I'd get part of the way through, and a few hours later I was done with the entire book. So it affected me a lot. It like I said, I related to so many of those characters and what they were going through, and I think so many people still do today.
One thing that stands out to me about The Outsiders is of any book that was adapted into a movie, didn't feel like there was much left out. I felt like it was such a transparent adaptation. And have you heard that through the years?
Well, there are actually two separate cuts. There's the original cut, and there's what's known as the complete novel. And I do know Francis Ford Coppola, the director, incredible artist, was concerned about the amount of time that younger people wanted to sit in theaters. And he did cut out quite a bit of what we had originally filmed, but I think it was the 25th anniversary. He recut it and changed some music around, and he released what's known as the complete novel. And I have to say, it covers pretty much everything in that book. And what a cast! Tom Cruise, Matt Dillon, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, Ralph Macchio, Emilio Estevez, Diane Lane, Leif Garrett, Tom Waits is in it. Bill Smith, some iconic pop culture icons came out of that piece. And
there's another actor, and actually a scene I was going to bring up to you. It's one of my favorite scenes. It's with you and an actor. I believe his name is Gaylord Sartain.
Gaylord Sartain, who from Hee Haw fame back in
Yeah.
the day, local artist. He was from Tulsa, and of course, he played the gentleman that brought the kids to the church that burnt down,
Yep.
and he ushered me to the hospital, and we have a little moment together where we're both smoking a cigarette, and he's telling me that I shouldn't smoke.
And I thought it was just I love that scene. I thought you guys played that beautiful. I just thought it was so genuine.
That is really what Francis relies upon. I think he looks for those moments, and he was such, Francis is an amazing director, but he's also part father and part psychologist, and he has this incredible knack of allowing an actor to make those discoveries as if he had found them on his own when he's leading you like a bee to honey right down the path that he wants. And I never knew that. I really appreciated working with him and the way he communicated. I started out with a little movie called E.T.
Yep.
and Steven Spielberg, of course, was the director of that. And something that both he and Francis Ford Coppola share is their incredible ability to communicate. They're great communicators, and they handle both the technical aspect and the creative aspect of filmmaking incredibly well. And a lot of times you'll get somebody at the helm that handles either side incredibly well and might struggle with the other, depending if you're a crew member, like a cameraman. You might be great at the technical aspect, but you don't have a whole lot of experience communicating with actors or handling the writing or understanding, storytelling. But the greats are incredible storytellers. And that's really important when you're a young actor. Communication and the ability to sit with somebody that has patience and can teach you things that you need to know, because, it's very simple for a young actor to turn in a performance that reeks of too much effort. And what I mean by that is we all want to be good. So we try a little too hard, and the camera picks up everything. So as a young actor, a lot of times you'll see a performance that's a little forced, a little pushed, not supernatural, not relaxed. And that comes from somebody just really, understanding that they have an opportunity of a lifetime and really wanting to be, quote unquote, good in their performance. And unfortunately, that is a danger zone. And when I worked with somebody like Steven, and had teachers like Steven Spielberg and Francis Ford Coppola help me set up good habits and teach me how to break down a character and understand the scene, and trust that I didn't have to do anything particular to make that scene, quote unquote, good. I just had to relax in myself, listen to the other actors, pretty much show up on time, be prepared, and make those around me better. And that's what I still bring to the set today. And I think that's what makes a good actor today.
What was it like to have your first two credits and then a credit not too long later with John Milius, to have directors like that in your first couple movies? What was that like?
John Milius is an amazing person and a great writer. Of course, he wrote that famous speech in Jaws when they were talking on the boat. Yep. About their scars, and he wrote Conan and directed Conan, and of course he co-wrote and directed Red Dawn. Again, back in the day, there was a real separation between television actors and film actors, and I got my start in film and had a great example working with some of the best directors, including Franco Zeffirelli. I did a movie with Elizabeth Taylor when I was 20 years old, and Franco Zeffirelli directed it. And I spent a year of my life in Italy. Went on then to Spain to work with Richard Lester, who directed the Beatles movies back in the day, Hard Day's Night, and these are the people that I really learned from on a deep level, and thankfully so, because habits become ingrained when you're young, and there's a lot of people that have struggled with their careers because they got by on looks or having certain another thing that really helped me, to be honest with you, I have to give the credit to my father. my father was not a stage parent. My father rode bulls for 10 years for a living and became a stunt man. And I thought I was going to be doing stunts as well. So I was raised on a ranch. I had, chores that uh, I had to do every single day, whether it was feeding horses or watering or cleaning stalls or riding colts, whatever it was that I had to do. That really kept my feet on the ground. And a lot of these stage parents today are pushing their kids to dance class and making sure that they go to acting classes and they're wearing the right clothes when they go in the audition, and they've overworked the scenes with them to a point where it's just deadpan. And I, I didn't really have that as a child. I can remember going on the Outsiders auditions and walking in, and yeah, there were a lot of actors that were wearing their t-shirts with their sleeves folded up and their greased hair and Levi jackets, and I wore my Sesame Street t-shirt. I really didn't
Love it.
um, have. There was an innocence to me at that age, and um, I think that was a part of what Francis was attracted to when he cast me in the role. I wasn't aware of his credits. He had won Academy Awards for The Godfather. He had made Apocalypse Now. He's worked with all the great actors: Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Gene Hackman. I mean, the list went on and on and on. And there were a lot of people in awe of that, and I think that affected their work in the auditions. But for me, I just wanted to get back and ride my horses. I didn't have the responsibility that most adults have walking into an audition when they need to get a role, to feed their kids, to pay their mortgage or their rent. Uh, for me, it was more about the experience that I was having in the moment and enjoying it, and that gave me a leg up on a lot of other people because ignorance is bliss, and in that moment, for me, I had nothing to lose. I only had something to gain. And if I didn't get the part, it was okay. And I think both Spielberg and Francis Ford Coppola recognized that when I came in and started working with them.
Do you think the fact that you were so age appropriate, like you said, you were 14 when you started auditioning, a lot of times you get these 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds playing 16-year-olds. To me, that shows that you were actually that age and you could really relate to the character.
Yeah, well, when you're a teenager playing a teenager, there's not a whole lot of thinking outside the box, right? It's just about being present and in the moment and being reactive to what's going on around you and responding. Um, a lot of work goes into playing somebody like George Foyet on Criminal Minds when you're a serial killer, and you have to do research, and you have to um, create something from your imagination at that point. But when you're a child and you're playing a child, it there's an innocence that goes along with that. And I think there was an innocence that was important to the character of Ponyboy, written by Susie Hinton at the time, and that's something that Francis wanted to be authentic with. And I don't know if you could have managed that so much if you would have cast a 21-year-old to play 14, 15 and be in that part, because of course, that's a big 6, 7 years. Um, you're almost a completely different person trying to remember what it was like to be 14 or 15, as opposed to existing in that moment and exuding that authentically.
Absolutely. Again, we are talking with C. Thomas Howell. He is going to be in town, Mayville, the Delchar Theater, March 27th. 4 tickets. Visit delcharmovies.com. We'll talk a little bit more about the movie and the event, and then we will talk about a little bit of your music career when we get back, if that's okay.
Thank you so much.
And then right now we're gonna play "Stay Gold" by Stevie Wonder. Any memories with this song at all? Through the movie.
Well, I wasn't aware that Stevie had performed that piece. So, when I sat down and saw the screening for the first time, I was just blown away. I was like, oh my God, that's Stevie Wonder. So that was like a gift in the moment before, I got to watch what they had cut together. And such a huge Stevie Wonder fan. What an incredible artist, and I hear he's a beautiful person. So I just think he did a great job with it.
And it fits. And they did a great job finding the right song for the movie. I think it just fits incredibly well.
I agree.
Okay, here's Stay Gold by Stevie Wonder. We'll be right back with C. Thomas Howell here on the 80s at 8. We're back here with C. Thomas Howell. He will be at the Delchar Theater on March 27th, and it's going to include a showing of the movie The Outsiders. And you talked about it, you touched on it. What a cast! This cast is incredible. At that time, though, everybody was pretty young. Did you have a feeling at that moment that there was something special among that cast?
Well, Tom Cruise was certainly a force.
Yeah.
And there was something special about everybody. Uh, Patrick, I went on to do 3 pictures with, and he was literally like a true brother to me. I learned so much from Emilio Estevez, who really taught me how to think outside the box and freed me up as an artist. And I was the biggest Matt Dillon fan in the world. I wanted to be Matt Dillon. I mean, when that guy walked into a room, like people just stopped and stared. It was an amazing thing to see. But I have to say, I don't think I could have pulled it off without Ralph Macchio. Ralph was the one that I spent most of my time with. He was quite a bit older than me. Ralph was 21 when we did the film, and I was, 14, 15. And I feel bad that he had to, hang out with this young teenager all the time. But he never let on to the fact that might have been disappointing to have to do. He worked with me every day, and Ralph had a lot of experience, and he taught me how to break down a character, and he taught me what rehearsing a scene was, and how to approach doing the quote unquote work for the sake of the work. And I'll always be in debt to Ralph for that. He's a great man. I love him to death, and was very grateful to, I'm still very grateful to have a wonderful relationship with somebody like that.
It sounds like there were just some great relationships formed on that set.
To this day, whenever you listen to somebody else doing an interview about whatever project that they are currently working on, inevitably The Outsiders is brought up, and the heart and soul just shines right through whatever cast member is sharing about their experience from The Outsiders.
Absolutely. Yeah, and now just talking a little bit about the event, just kind of wrapping up. What can people expect as far as the airing of the movie? Do you kind of talk about each scene, or do you play it throughout, or how does that work?
It changes from event to event. Sometimes I will do a little commentary. I try not to get in the way of the film itself. The most important thing for me is for people to come and have a good time, and to have a decent Q&A afterwards. And Q&As only work if the audiences, have the cues. They have to have the questions for the answers, and it's very interactive. Everybody that comes, for the most part, has seen the film before, and most people have read the book, so there's a lot to talk about. And some of the people that have never seen it before, and that come to the screenings for the first time, seemingly love seeing it up there on the big screen for the first time. And that's something that, is unusual. I mean, I'm not so sure how many films we go watch in the theater today have the heart and soul and the characters and the authenticity that something like The Outsiders contains. See, we didn't have, computer generated effects. We weren't making Marvel movies back then. It's almost as if today we go into the theater and we sit down with our popcorn, and an explosion begins and lasts for 2 hours, and then it's over and the curtains, close, and we go, that was great, and walk out. There's something about storytelling that we're lacking today in our society. And kids' attention spans are shrinking. nobody needs a beginning and a middle and an end anymore. They'd rather just swipe left on TikTok and, do that for 3 hours than sit and watch a movie or write a story or read a book. And that's really the whole point of the Stay Gold Foundation, to encourage kids that their voice matters. A lot of kids don't think they're worthy of artwork, and a lot of kids that begin to write or that want to write or that want to be actors or artists don't have a lot of support. You know, Kids are cruel sometimes, and they can ridicule each other, and that has a big effect on all of us, especially as artists. So to be able to have somebody go and share an experience with a younger person and encourage them, and for lack of a better word, teach them to give themselves permission to be creative, if you will, can go a long way. And we get a lot of responses from a lot of very happy parents that say things like, my child has started reading ferociously due to this, meeting that we had, or the screening and the meet and greet, or the Q&A afterwards. And thank you so very much. And even if we just help one kid, that makes a difference. And it's certainly not for everybody, but those that need just that little, push from behind to get started. You never know what you're going to create. We could be creating the next S.E. Hinton, and somebody could write an amazing book, an amazing song, and potentially create and direct films. Even if they want to become a painter, whatever it is, whatever aspect of artwork that they can hone and appreciate and let go of the fear of focusing on that and sharing that, then we've done our job.
One thing I love about what you were doing, Tommy, is that you're doing it in some areas that events like this and speakers like this don't necessarily come a lot. Mayville's a very small town. Also, I was very jealous when I found out this. I live in Nebraska. I was and lived in Mayville most of my life. Was very jealous when I found this was coming, and then I found out today that you're going to come 50 miles away from me in North Platte. So I'm going to get to see you at the end of the month. So I think
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, please come through. I mean, that has to happen. Yeah, we're gonna hit Lincoln. We're gonna hit North Platte, and we're trying to spread it out a little bit, Harry. And I have to tell you, the small towns have surprised us. People come.
Yeah.
Those venues are very personal. People can actually come up and connect with me personally, and we can have an exchange. That's a wonderful exchange that they might not be able to experience because they, need to travel to New York City or to Los Angeles. And a lot of people in small towns don't have the opportunity to do that.
Exactly. And you're going to love the Delchar. It's a great, great place. And just the fact that you're going there, I remember seeing Gods and Generals there. One of the last
Excellent.
movies that I saw there was a movie called Woodlawn that you were in. So
Wow.
the fact that you were in Mayville, and of course I grew up with E.T. and watching Gettysburg with my dad, and my mom is a teacher and she loved teaching The Outsiders. So I feel such a deep connection to this whole thing. And
Wow, that's fantastic. I'm glad you shared that with me. Well, of course, come to North Platte when we come through, and we'll hug it out.
hey, can't wait. Lastly, I'd like to talk. I mean, you're still doing a lot of movies. This summer you had, or I can't remember what year, but Ride was a movie you were in that got great reviews. You were also in Reagan, so you're still very busy on that side of things as well, correct?
I'm in the current season of 1923 right now.
Yep.
Next Sunday you can catch me on that if interested. But we try to continue to work and stay present. And the older I get, the choosier I get with the projects that I want to be involved with. Thank God I'm in a place where I can be like that. But Ride was a great film. I really loved making that movie. That was a movie that was a work of passion about three generations of bull riders, and that's something that I grew up with, of course. And 1923 is one of the greatest experiences I've ever had on a set. Harrison Ford, Helen Mirren, what a cast, and of course the great Taylor Sheridan providing those beautiful words for us to chew on and spit out. So it's at this point for me, it's about working with people that I can learn from and be inspired by.
That's awesome. And lastly, we are going to finish things out with two of your songs and the songs are 88 and Hell of a Life. Talk a little bit about how music I have to imagine it's always been a passion of yours.
It's funny because I grew up in a musicless home. My folks, like my father, was on the road all the time, and I'd be with him, and he'd listen to news. I was probably 9 years old when I discovered there was actually music that could come out of the radio
Wow.
stations, and you know, I loved music my whole life, and I think it was because I've always been a storyteller, and musicians have been a big part of a big attraction for me. I've always gravitated towards musicians, and I've always wanted to be a musician, but I spent my life as an actor. And oh gosh, COVID hit about 4 years ago, right? And the business shut down, and I thought, well, I'm going to grab a guitar, and I started plucking out a few chords, and lo and behold, I discovered that, having spent a lifetime in the 2 hour storytelling format, it wasn't a very difficult transition exploring the 2 minute storytelling format. You still need a beginning, a middle, and an end, and hopefully have something of value to share with somebody. And I fell in love with songwriting, and I went to Nashville, and I started meeting some of the best. I started meeting some of the best songwriters in the world, and really learning from them. And I cut 2 albums. My second album is going to drop here in a couple of months. My first album is available on all platforms. It's called American Storyteller, and my second album will be called Damned Good Man, which I cut at the late great Johnny Cash's cabin, where all the greats like Loretta Lynn and Tanya Tucker and Merle Haggard and all the greats cut so many of their hits over the years. And the lore and the history in that place literally was amazing. I mean, sitting in the rocking chair that Johnny wrote so many songs in, and walking around the woods where June Carter Cash raised her kids. It was just an absolute incredible experience, and so inspiring. So that's a passion of mine that really started only a few years ago. And again, performing music is just another outlet or a platform for me to be able to connect with an audience and have an exchange. So it's something that I didn't expect to have become such a prominent part of my life, but it's something that I think about every day and love to do.
And to learn more about your music, TommyHowellMusic.com, is that correct?
That's right. You can go to TommyHowellMusic.com. The dates of where we are holding the outsider screenings or performing music are all there. We've got some incredible merch opportunities there for T-shirts and books and posters and different kind of things. And a lot of times we have free giveaways where we'll give away signed posters of the Outsiders or books or albums. And I highly recommend, if you're interested in coming to one of our shows, go to TommyHowellMusic.com and stay tuned. If we don't have your town on posted up with a date yet, just keep visiting us, and you might do what Harry did here, discover that we're going to be coming 50 miles away from your home.
Exactly. And again, he will be coming to Mayville March 27th, the Delchar, and I know he'd love to have as many people as possible. Tommy, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I had a blast, and I know you're going to have a great time at the Delchar.
Harry, I thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in North Platte, and I look forward to seeing everybody in Mayville. Thank you so much.